Good evening, CFTA. Give yourself a big round of applause for coming here on this evening. It's snowy, it's terrible outside, but you still made the time and effort to come here. So give yourself my job is the funnest job the entire night, which is to do the in-house announcements, first and foremost. After tonight's performance, I'm sure it's going to be great. If you want to keep a video of your performance, you can buy it at the bar for $15 plus tax, and it's shot with 5 cameras. It's very fancy. It looks, yeah, you can show off to your friends and be like, hey, have you seen my video? And then the last questions, you're not going to talk forever after that because the questions were super fucked up. So that's one. 2, we now have our own lager, which is called Chaos Lager. It's very good. I haven't tried it, but I have to say it's really good. So it's really good, guys. And 3rd, just enjoy your evening. Make sure you're having fun. And remember, everybody here is tonight to tell a story. So let's tell me, guys, how is the energy in the room? No. See, Mike Derbecker is a good friend of mine. I can't let him come up on stage with that energy. So can we get a bit more energy in this room? Ladies and gentlemen, with a big round of applause, help me welcome your host for the evening, Mr. Mike Derbecker.
That is the greatest intro I've ever had in this world. Okay, a couple of things quickly. He did all the housekeeping stuff. I want to make a special, I always do this, but I want to make a special shout out to George and to Jake. This event actually started around a year ago today. So I've been doing the storytelling night every month here for the last year, and I've watched the crowds and, more importantly, the performers increasing in number and increasing in efficacy and talent and everything. So everybody who's here for the first time, I am delighted you're here. Thank you very much. And if you've come back, I appreciate you even more. So thank you very, very much across the board. Give yourself some applause, please. As George mentioned, this is being videoed. If anybody at some point decides that maybe you don't want this to go out in the universe, let me know or let George know, and we can turn the sound off. So anybody watching this will just see your magnificent visage and won't hear actually what you're saying. And I am so impressed. There are people here tonight who walked in at random a couple of months ago and have come back, and you know who you are. There is somebody here I went to high school with who I really don't think is going to talk about how stupid I was in high school. I suppose if she does, she deserves the ability to do so. Please don't. Oh, for God's sake, please don't. And I'll probably do something myself as well. And one more housekeeping little point. We've got, one second. We've got around 16 people on this list. So since we all have to go home at some point, we're going to keep your time down to around between 5 and 7 minutes. There is a light back there. There is a green light, a yellow light, and the red light. May I demonstrate? That's all 3 of them. So green light when you start, and at around the 4 or 5 minute mark, the yellow light and the red light means thank you for your time, please wrap it up. I am the first person to say that since my stuff tends to go a bit long, this is a little bit daunting, but consider it a challenge across the board. And we'll see what happens. I am so delighted that this has been happening. I started doing storytelling in Toronto around 15 years ago. There's someone here who might keep you honest. Brian, 15 years or so? Oh, God, yeah. I'll call that confirmation. My line across the board has always been, I tell stories about stuff I can't forget. And sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's serious, and sometimes it's just stuff that sticks in your head and you think it's worth sharing. Pretty much everybody here is going to have that same type of response, so I'm going to stop now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's go for the first performer. And because I have no memory whatsoever, I got to read it directly off of this beautiful book. I know this gentleman. Famous already. First performer I have known before, and I want to see him again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tomo.
Tonight, I'd like to tell you about one of the many jobs that I do, swim coaching. Now, you might not think of it as much, but I can tell you that pound for pound, minute by minute, it is the toughest job I've ever done in my life. Tougher than all the corporate jobs I've held. And here's why. Even a 4-hour shift, which doesn't sound like much, 8 blocks of consecutive teaching, 30 minutes per class, anywhere between 4 to 9 kids, right? You're picking them up, you're putting them down like furniture, but the only difference is this furniture cries. It punches you in the face when it fights you. It doesn't sit down properly and falls into the water when it's not supposed to. And worst of all, sometimes it barfs. Now, as soon as the kids come in, I'm smiling. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Then the cues start flying. All right, everybody, please show me your front crawl arms. Jackson, ready, go. Kick, kick, kick. Whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop. Hold on, hold on. Have a seat, have a seat. Okay, your swimsuit's coming down. The world can see your butt, okay? Yeah, let's try that again. And then I hear the same old words. I want my mommy. Another kid, I want my mommy. And I'm thinking, oh God, I just want your mommies to realize what a privilege it is for you to be here, to have a parent that can spend $60 for just a half hour that you're here where other kids are starving all over the world. When I grew up, my parents couldn't pay for private swim lessons. Our neighbor's septic tank was the closest thing they had. Just kidding. It wasn't quite that bad. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, and then what did they say? So teacher, if I finish this class, my mom's gonna buy me an iPad. Right? It's like, good God almighty. It's funny because one of my favorite parts about the class, and also my least favorite, is giving the parents individual feedback. At the end of each 30-minute block, I have precisely 1 minute to talk to every parent. Can you believe that? So when they come in, my eyes lock with their eyes. They're looking at me like, so Tomo, how's my kid doing? My thoughts are racing because mentally in my head, I'm going, oh God, your kid is hopeless. She's been with me for 12 weeks and they sink faster than a ton of bricks. They suck more than a Third Avenue hooker. No, I can't say that. But all I can say is, she's doing really good. Yeah. So did a great job of, not drowning. And we'll keep working on the swimming. Yeah. Keep working on it. Yeah. Keep up the good work. Okay, see you next week. And just when I feel like a few lessons in, I've got everything under control, there's that familiar sound, the long whistle, and one of my colleagues yelling, everybody clear the pool. Once again, for the 5th straight day in a row, someone's thrown up. I got the yellow light here, so I'll just wrap up real quick. So why do I keep doing this job? Yes, it's tough, but you know what? The laughter I share with the kids, right? It's like, okay, let's do our backstroke 6 kicks drill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everybody laughs at that until that got too old. And the thank you that I get from the families every once in a while, when I could really tell that they genuinely appreciated what I did, and I feel like I made a contribution to their growth and also being able to learn something. So thank you, guys. Yeah.
So you've brought back this horribly traumatic memory. I did not throw up in in swim class, but the kid next to me did. And this is before I got in the water, and I got my feet wet before I actually got in the water. I'm sure you can do the math. It was not a pleasant experience. And it was like, this is in the primitive times. I mean, at least we actually had a pool. I'm not that damn old. It wasn't like we were at the River Jordan or anything like that, but it feels like it. Thank you very much. That was very cool and incredibly well timed, I might add. One more hand of applause, please. It is so cool standing up here because you're half blind from the lights and you can just barely make out faces. And I always love that experience. I've never had stage fright in my life. I get stage fright in front of cops and lawyers and doctors and especially bankers. But an audience, I always think, hey, you know, what are they going to do, crucify me? Please don't crucify me. We have the next person coming up. We have Donna. And here she is. Nice and simple introduction. Do you want to hold it or stand? Oh, yours.
Thank you. All right, this is my very first time doing this, so please, thank you. Okay, this is an original Donna Derbecker story that I wrote. Okay, so, alas, you found her, a beautiful, intelligent, kind, and hardworking woman with a light so bright she almost blinded you when you set sight on her. In your ravenous mind, she looked and smelled absolutely delicious. Like a predator with infrared vision, you pounced on this radiating prey before you. To your surprise, she barely struggled. She was as easy to catch as a sacrificial lamb. Once you got a taste of her, you quickly realized she was the most delicious emotional meal you had ever feasted on. You were now in a feeding frenzy. You absolutely devoured her, and before you knew it, she was gone. But you had already feasted on her, so now you were full for a while. But soon the starvation returned. Being the starving emotional predator you are, you frantically went off hunting for new prey. But it had to be just as good, if not better, than the lamb you had before. This time, you managed to seize some prime rib. And oh my God, this prime rib was so much better than that disgusting lamb you had before. But again, you devoured this meal with your ferocious appetite, unable to savor it slowly. And soon, you were left with nothing but a rotting carcass again, starving for more delicious prey. It took longer this time, but you managed to sink your teeth into the most sought-after A5 Wagyu available on Earth. You quickly devoured her too. Before you knew it, she was also gone, for there was no prey on Earth that will satisfy you for long. You are emotionally starved, and you will remain an emotionally starved predator for the rest of your frantic life, with an appetite for love that will never be satiated. And all that you will leave in your wake is a pile of skeletal, discarded carrion, constantly complaining that all of your victims weren't the delicious meals you originally thought they were just rotting flesh. After all, you say to people while pointing to your past victims, look at them, they're nothing but rotten flesh. And everyone agrees. They see the same thing you do. All of your past victims are nothing but vile, rotten, putrid heaps of dried up flesh. But it was you that turned them into those wasted corpses. You didn't tell people that, did you? You sucked the life right out of them and then ran away from them, disgusted by the putrefying decay of your victims. You were disgusted by what you created. But remember, it was once a brand new dining experience for you. Right now, you may be feasting on your enticing new capture, but this lovely meal will soon be nothing but a disgusting corpse again, just like all the others. And again, it will go on and on until you die, alone, in a starving desert, in a wasteland of your own making. Listen to me, you predators. You think you're living a fulfilling life, feasting on the lifeblood of others. But as you get older, the landscape of your mind will consist of nothing but a barren wasteland of decay. Your heart will be the memorial ground of all the victims you preyed upon and destroyed. Your victims are scattered around you, looking like dried up skeletons, useless, disgusting, pathetic, wasted remains. But their souls rose up long ago, After you discarded them, they ascended to a lush paradise where love, peace, sunshine, and joy grew year-round and filled our landscape with an eternally bountiful harvest. But you, Mr. Predator, your barren, empty, dark, and hellish wasteland you created for yourself, you'll be there forever. And all you'll be feasting on in the end is the bitter taste of regret and the bile of emptiness that came from your lifetime of emotional predation. You never grew your own emotional garden or found a way to feed yourself, and you shall remain starving forever.
Please carry on for Donna. Wow.
Sorry.
No, like. Okay, firstly, don't apologize. That was amazing. And precise and dare I say a little angry. So I'd been asked, just before this, I'd been asked to remind people, willingly of course, that there is also incredibly good homemade baklava available, which is not meant to serve as a dessert to all of the munching that you just mentioned. Question of timing. Anyhow, that was incredible. True. There is remarkably good baklava over there, and it's going to be there all night. So when you get hungry, and now that I've mentioned homemade baklava made from somebody's hands, not from a machine, at least 1/3 of this audience is going to think that might be good, and then 2/3 in around 10 minutes will go, oh God, that sounds amazing. Please go over there and fetch it. Here's the part of the evening I'm terrified with. I'm about to introduce Emily. I knew Emily a long time ago. We went to the same high school. It was a performing arts high school that also had a gifted program. Emily was in the gifted program. She remains gifted. I was in the arts program. Whether I'm artistic or not is up for debate. A mutual friend of ours, she came to visit me a while ago with a mutual friend of ours who is into acupuncture. And I had a horribly wiped out shoulder at the time. And the mutual friend said, you know, I am an acupuncturist and I've got my needles in the car. And I said, oh God, you know, this would definitely help me. It would be so wonderful. And came in and began to place them in the right place. And I suddenly went, by the way, you're not going to suddenly decide you're angry about something stupid I did when I was 15 years old by any chance, are you? And she said, no, I think I'm over it. You have no idea how grateful I was to hear those words right now with someone who had medical implements over my shoulder. I don't think any of this has to do with what Emily's going to talk about, but I'm really happy to have her here, and that's the only truly honest way I could introduce her. Come on up. Emily.
Okay, so now that I know it has to be shorter, I'm thinking on my feet, or I might just talk really quickly. So yes, this is my first time. Not my first time public speaking because I'm a teacher, so I talk in front of people all the time, but I usually know them fairly well. So this is called advice. I'm a high school English teacher. A few years ago, a new vice principal came to my school. He seemed like a nice enough guy, I think. One day he came up to me and he said, I know you from somewhere. Long story short, we figured out that we had both been on the board of directors of the Centurion, the University of Guelph newspaper, at the same time. So we chit-chatted about the past a bit, and then he said, wait, didn't you write an advice column? Wasn't that you? And I confirmed that indeed I had proposed, created, and written an advice column in the paper. It was called Dear Auntie M. And at first I wrote the questions and then answered them myself. But after the second column came out, we started getting questions from readers. One day, one of the staff writers came into the office all excited. She'd been waiting in line at one of the many Timmys on campus, and she said she overheard a group of people talking about Dear Auntie M. Apparently, my column was a hit. So that was exciting. Unfortunately, I then switched to University of Western Ontario, so I only did the column for a year. Now, part of the reason I called the column Dear Auntie M was because of the British tradition of advice columnists are called agony aunts. But more importantly, I called it Dear Auntie M because being an aunt is a fundamental part of my personality. I became an aunt for the first time when I was 12, because I'm the fifth of 6 kids. By the time I was 30, I was an aunt to 3 nieces and 8 nephews. I built solid relationships with some of them, but some of them lived far away, so I only got to know them sort of over the phone through their parents or at very rare family gatherings. A couple of my nephews came to stay for a week in the summer. I gave one of them a couple of driving lessons. One of the great privileges of being an aunt is being available for your young relatives as a parental proxy. You're similar enough to their parents to be comfortable, but safe enough to ask maybe some difficult questions. My son was a really picky eater, and he learned to try new foods at my sister's houses. Nieces and nephews have asked me for book and music recommendations. I've given them gifts of school supplies and contributed to their fundraising efforts. But I try not to give them advice, unless I was directly asked for it, though, because advice giving can be a tricky thing. The writer Anne Lamott cautions against giving advice, saying, if it's somebody else's problem, you probably don't have the answer. My teen years were spent learning not to need advice from my parents, partly because their advice was often rooted in their own beliefs and desires for me, partly due to the classic teen struggle to define myself outside of my family. When I encountered situations that were way out of their scope of experience, their default was usually based in biblical teachings. For instance, when I was in grade 13, my friend Lucy and our math teacher fell in love. It had been obvious to our friend group for a while that they were closer than teacher and student should be, but the relationship did not become public until my friend graduated. I had very mixed feelings about this, and I sought my parents' advice. They were horrified and advised me to cut off all contact with Lucy immediately because she and the teacher were sinning, and I should not behave as if I approved by socializing with them. But that felt wrong to me. It seemed to me that they were going to continue on this path whether I was in their lives or not, and to shun them only cut Lucy off from a sympathetic ear. And shouldn't an 18-year-old woman whose accounting teacher father dropped dead of a heart attack in front of his class when she was 17 have as much support as possible when she falls in love with her math teacher who's 40 and has a 7-year-old child? That kind of person needs friends. Eventually, I decided that my instinct to support her was how I wanted to continue, and that I would offer my opinion, if only she was asked. Long story short, they ended up getting divorced, and he married somebody else the day their divorce papers were signed, and that person was 20 years younger than him and pregnant with a child. Yeah. I have yellow, but I have so much to say. Okay. It is a beautiful moment when a friend you're close to directly asks you for advice. In this case, they want help, and they trust you enough to want your opinion. For example, my friend Alice called me weeping, distressed because the third relationship in 3 years had ended, and she just didn't know what to do differently. I let her vent, and eventually she said to me, what do I have to do? What do you think I should change? And I said, what's your greatest fear? And she said, to be alone, right away. I thought for a minute, and I said, I don't think that's true. I think it's the opposite. I think you're afraid to be together. She said, what do you mean? I said, if you were truly afraid to be alone, you would pick somebody who needed you desperately, who wanted to spend every moment with you, who clung to you like a limpet and never even wanted you to leave the house. And she thought for a minute, and then she said, damn it. And a while passed, and a year passed, and she had a partner that she was getting along with really well that made her really happy. The problem was her mother did not approve of the relationship, and so they weren't allowed to visit home as a couple. This made my friend really angry, and she called me to vent. So she's like, why can't my mother just accept blah, 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 blah? And when she wound down, I said, why don't you just give her what she wants? The next time she says, you don't visit enough, just say, you're right, I don't. Because the reality is, you're an only child, she's left, she's bereft without you, and the only way you could give her enough visits is to just move back in, and you're not gonna do that. She's like, well, I don't wanna lie to her. I said, you're not, you're just acknowledging her feelings. So a week later, I get a phone call, I pick up the phone, and all I hear is, damn it! And she says, how do you know this stuff? She had used my line, her mother, you don't know this? You're right, Mom, I don't. And there was 15 solid seconds of silence. And then her mother changed the subject. And the next time they talked on the phone, her mother didn't bring it up at all. Yeah. Unsolicited advice is never welcome. I know it's red, but can I just keep going? Unsolicited advice is never welcome. It can feel like criticism or a major invasion of privacy. Pregnant women are often the recipients of wildly inappropriate comments from total strangers. Advice giving can ruin relationships. One area in which unsolicited advice giving should be strictly avoided is marriage. In my starter marriage, I gave plenty of unsolicited advice on how my spouse could improve their life and, by extension, our relationship and family life. None of my suggestions landed, which is no surprise since they were rooted in what I wanted. The beautiful irony is that after I left in a couples counseling appointment I reluctantly agreed to, I was presented with a list of all the things that my partner would do if I just came back. All of them were things I had suggested. Too late. I entered my second marriage determined never to offer unsolicited advice, but circumstances were different. My new partner became a parent to my son, who was 9 when we married. I had a lot of experience as a parent. He had none. So my advice was needed. While I tried to step back and let them form their own relationship, there were times when I had to step in and directly tell him what was going on and what he needed to do. The first couple of years were tough, but I'm happy to say that they're very good friends now. Outside of child rearing, the issue of advice plays out in our marriage in another way, having to do with a classic gender-based experience. Generally speaking, I know there are exceptions to this. When a woman talks to a man about her problems, he will inevitably offer solutions. This seems perfectly logical. By explaining in detail what's wrong, she's clearly asking for help, right? No. One of the most important things you could do in a relationship when someone is venting is to ask them, do you just need me to listen, or are you looking for solutions? 9 times out of 10, your partner just needs to vent. I explicitly taught my husband early in our marriage that when I was complaining about something, the only appropriate answer was, that sounds very difficult. I didn't know you felt that way. That's it. The same way Lucy changed the dynamic with her mom by acknowledging her mom's feelings and not trying to solve her mom's problem. I've been teaching for 22 years. For the first 15 years or so, I constantly doubted myself. Imposter syndrome is real. But the combined stresses of COVID-19 and menopause had a dramatic effect on my attitude toward teaching. I realized that if I was doing things dreadfully wrong, someone would have pointed it out by now. When I stripped away all the self-doubt, I came to understand that my 2 primary motivations as a teacher are making connections and sharing stories. I know I do both of those things well. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I repeat that to myself when I've had a rough teaching day. I walk through the world knowing I have my own unique view of the world and a deep well of kindness and compassion for others to draw from. As a friend, as a teacher, as a spouse, I try to always be open-hearted and honest, live in my own truth, and be ready to share my perspective when asked. It's why I'm here. Thank you.
That was beautiful, and please, one more time for Emily. I have no advice after that for obvious reasons, and that was beautiful. If I can bounce back a few decades, I knew part of the story. I knew about the marriage. I didn't know about the divorce after the marriage of the people you mentioned. I didn't know that's how it ended. You've just filled in a bunch of blanks I didn't know were actually there. That was so cool. Thank you for being here, and also, it's so rare to see anybody from back in the day. I'm really I'm honored. Thank you so much for deciding to share that here. This is wonderful. Okay, we got a good night so far. Next person is going to come up has been here a whole bunch of times. He is concise and beautifully timed. He's one of the favorite people I like to video edit because I can time things perfectly based on his own timing. I never have to trim around something to make things go faster or slower. I never need to change angles. He is very precise, and I'm delighted to see him. Ladies and gentlemen, Eamon.
The A stands for asshole. You'll see why in a second. So I was waiting on Mike to say one certain thing before I come on stage, and he did not. But I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to say what I had in mind. So Storytelling night has become something of a family tradition for us. You'll see that I brought my son with me, and my brother is also in the audience. Now, my older brother is here, and, you know, as siblings do, we always like to fight with each other, okay? And the one thing he likes to pinpoint is the fact that I have white hair. He does not. And he is older than me, yet I have white hair. So I'm standing here to try to explain, I wonder why I have white hair. Could it be the fact that when we were young and we snuck out of the house when we weren't supposed to? Both our parents were working and they would leave us home alone. One fine night, we were outside, and this old man comes up to us, and he asks us to help him carry a box of fruit to his apartment. He offered to pay us money, at which point my brother was very excited. I, on the other hand, was trepidatious, and I said, no, we have to go home. Our parents are calling. There were no mobiles at the time. No one was calling. I just had that feeling. Sure enough, a few days later, we find out that one of our friends did, in fact, go with this old man, and they tried to kidnap them. But that wasn't it. Could it be when we were slightly older and he wanted to get a cassette tape? We used to make mixtapes back then. And this cassette tape was 6 kilometers away from our house on a highway. He wanted to take his bicycle and go. And I said, no, I will go. And you know why? Because I'm street smart. I did not trust that he would be able to go there safely. And sure enough, I got scratched down the right side of my arm by a bush that was in the middle of the road, and I still managed to come back home and give him the tape that he wanted. But that's not it. Could it be the fact that after we went to university, on the last day, I'm sitting upstairs watching wrestling. My favorite wrestler had just come back, Jeff Hardy. And I hear a scream from downstairs. And it's my brother. And I look downstairs, and he's getting into a fight. And what do? I throw on my shirt, I run downstairs, I ask no questions, and I throw the first punch. But that wasn't it either. Could it be the fact that I would have liked the audio to be cut on this, but I'll be very concise in what I say because it can be legally used against me. Okay? Could it be the fact that I used my training as an internal auditor, as someone who knows risks, to be able to get him out of a predicament that he got himself in by thinking, how can I hurt the person who is trying to hurt my brother? But that wasn't it. I hurt them badly. Yeah, I hurt them really badly, but that wasn't it either. Could it be the fact that I was tasked with the impossible task of emptying a 3-story house with a basement in a month when he wasn't there? And I did that. I even found people to come and replace the front lawn that was ruined. I even had to dig the carcass of a dead mouse out of his garbage because there was no one else there to do it. But that wasn't it. I think the point is I have white hair because I am the middle brother. Because I get stuff from up there and from down there. The young one is also difficult. Yeah, there's a story for that later. But since we got the lights, I will end with a very perfect quote for this specific story. It's by DMX. And it goes like this. So if it takes for me to suffer, for my brother to see the light, give me pain till I die, but please God, treat him right. Thank you.
Amen. One more time, please. I really wish I could blame my white hair on a younger sibling. I have an older sister who would have caused it. It went white after she treated me terribly. That's another story. So I can't blame it on anybody. One of his brothers is here this evening, and I have forgotten whether he is the younger or the older. You said older, but I didn't know if you brought two different brothers today. Tell you what, why don't we just bring him up, and he shall explain it himself. Here's another Nassar for you, everybody. Akram Nassar, please.
Yeah, I got a little emotional there. Yeah, I owe my brother a lot, definitely. He also didn't mention that when we went to university, the procrastinator in me made it so that all the chores in the house, the ones that we agreed were my responsibility and the ones that were his responsibility would inevitably fall onto him in the end because I would just not do it until he did. So I love you. That's just. I'm here. I was thinking about family, and family is important to us, like back home in the Middle East. So I was trying to think of something to say today, and I just thought of this, the concept of parents and their children, and what we inevitably pass on to our children, and what kind of morals and what kind of values we want to pass to our children. So the best person that's ever done that, that's taught me so much, is my dad. And I was just going to share a little story to highlight that. When I was in high school, my dad gave me this really, really cool pencil. It's like an engineer's pencil. It's called a shaker. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. It's a pilot pencil. With the lead that you feed in, and then you shake it and the lead comes out. And I remember he gave it to me, and he was so proud when he gave it to me, and he told me that his dad gave it to him when he went into engineering school to become an engineer. So he was so happy when he gave it to me, and he said he was so proud of me because at that point I was almost out of high school and going to university. So I was so happy with this pen, and it looked so cool, and I remember it was like silver and black, and it was just the coolest thing ever. So I took it to school with me. I used it every day, and one day I forgot my pencil case in my desk. And I went to the next class, and then as soon as I got to the next class, I remembered, oh, I forgot my pencil case. So I ran back to my class. I took my pencil case. I didn't think anything of it. I just went to my other class, and then I opened my pencil case, and the pencil's not there. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad. And I tried my hardest for like 2 weeks, I think. I tried my hardest to get that pencil back. I drew a picture of it, and I passed it around, and I said, if anybody can help me find this, please, like, it's so important to me. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the pencil back. So at that point, I think my dad kind of had this feeling that something wasn't, because I was upset. I was really upset. I was depressed, and I was like devastated. So my dad picked up on it. So he kept asking me, like, is there anything wrong? Is there anything wrong? I said, no, there's nothing wrong. At that point, I was hoping that I would get the pencil back before I had to confront him with the fact that I lost it. But then when I decided that, you know what, it's not happening. I'm not getting that pencil back. So I told my dad, I said, listen, I have something to tell you. I lost the pencil, and I just broke down. I broke down in tears. I felt so bad. And I told him, I'm really, really sorry. I know it meant so much to you. And he was like, no, I was just, come on. Like, it's just a pen. It's just a pencil. I wasn't even, no, it's not. I just told you that story because I wanted you to, because I wanted you it was just a story. Like, it's not, it wasn't something that my dad gave to me. It's okay, don't worry about it. And I didn't know at the time. He said it in such a way, I didn't know if he was being honest, if it really wasn't his dad's pen, or he was just lying because he wanted me to feel better. And I remember, like, I felt this weight lift, but at the same time I felt like there was something that he wasn't telling me, and the reason he didn't tell me is because he wanted me to feel better. So that was a lesson that I learned. And then fast forward, I don't know how many years at that point in the future, but I was a dad myself, and my kid, my son, I think he was maybe 5 or 6 at the time. And I gave him one of my old phones. And Ayman can vouch for this. I'm super, super like clingy. I keep all my old phones. Ever since I switched over from Nokia to Samsung, I keep all my phones. I don't use them, but I keep them. So I gave my son this phone, and it's really important to me because it was one of my favorite phones. And I gave it to him. I said, listen, you can play some games on it or whatever. So he takes it to his mom's work. She works at this is back home in Egypt, and she works at a nursery. And I remember my son came home after that, and he looked so scared. And he was crying, and he was so worried, and I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't, like, but then his mom told me, she's like, listen, he doesn't want to tell you, but somebody stole your phone. Like, somebody stole that phone. They can't find it. So I remember doing the exact same thing my dad did. It just kicked in automatically. I said, hey, don't worry about it. Like, it's just a phone. Who cares? I have a new one. That was an old phone. Don't worry about it. And if you know what, like one day I'll buy you your own phone, and it doesn't matter. It's not important. You're okay. That's the most important thing. I remember he also I bet he felt the same way I did when my dad did the same thing for me. So long story short, it was just that little thing that was in the back of my mind that was programmed into me because I saw my dad do it so long ago, and it just came out. And I did the same thing with my kid, and it just got me thinking that there's this really, really good quote that I heard about how we are currently living in our kids' memories. Like, where we're living right now is our kids' memories in the future. So we have to try our hardest to make it a good memory. That's it.
Two things. First, another hand for Akram, please. And second, as a parent, that idea that you're going to do something over your shoulder one day, which is going to affect your kid in some way, and you never know if it's going to be something that they're going to mention in 15 years and say, we had that really nice afternoon where we did one small thing, or I was mad at you for 15 years because you yelled at me because I dropped something. That level really hits you from time to time. It's so easy just to be stuck. I've got to support a family, I have to have a job, et cetera, et cetera. So to be able to think about it is remarkable, and to be able to say it on a stage like that is great. So thank you again for telling that story. And the next person who's coming up, I've seen here a few times as well. I just haven't seen him for a while. It's really hard to introduce anybody because I can go back on what I've seen them do in the past, and that seems kind of ridiculous. And it feels like it's filling time. Just suffice to say, every time I see this guy, I have no idea what the hell he's going to do. That is a compliment. So everybody, Frank. Walks around the room, taps his way around, left, right, center, squishes his way. Ad.
So that's two of us. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do either. Whenever I have the opportunity to plug a movie, I like to do that. And the movie I'm plugging is Swimming to Cambodia. So someone has seen it and knows someone knows how great it is. And I was going to tell you a little bit about that movie, except for I fear that yellow light. But the movie is about the making of the movie, The Killing Fields. And it's a documentary, and the actor, or the person that does the talking, is Sterling Gray. And in that movie, he reflects on the idea that at some point in our lives, we're going to look back and remember perfect moments. I think that's a brilliant exercise. But what I like to do is look back at my life for humorous moments. So in keeping with some of the stories I've told in the past, that's where I'm going. I grew up in a house with 4 sisters, and in my teenage years, I never saw the one bathroom we had with a shower. So I played every sport I could so that I could shower at school. And in the fall was football season, and it could be rainy and miserable, and the showers were steamy, and the men's locker room had a 10 by 10 room with 7 or 8 faucets all in one room. And one night we had this idea that we would soap up the floor and slide around on our bums. We called it bum racing. And I was quite good at it. I could twist 90 degrees and push off the walls and travel around the outside of the shower. And we had one rule, passing on the right only. But one night, a gentleman named Donald Bonner decided to take a shortcut across the center of the shower. And he tore his ass open on the shower drain. There was blood everywhere. You know the white foamy shower shampoo stuff? All red. He left, and being the good supportive young men that we were, we drained the blood out of the room, soaped it up, and kept going. I never saw Donald again. There was a rumor that he went to California, had a sex change. I don't know if it's true or not. So by the time the winter rolled around, I was part of the running club. And we ran snow, rain, sunshine. And the men's locker room was under repair. They were renovating it, so they let us use one of the women's change rooms. And I know you probably think it was co-ed bum racing, but but it wasn't. I just want to tell you that I was totally shocked that the women had individual shower stalls. How dare they rob them of that creative opportunity? By the time the spring, I should tell you, I had a good friend that was in the movie business. Well, actually, he was an usher. And if you're old enough to remember, the ushers used to help you find a seat with a little flashlight. And he, of course, was watching the Oscars, the Academy Awards. And that year was the year of the streaker. And of course, he brought that up after our track practice, and he said, we should do that. We should streak. So a few of us put our underwear over our heads, and the gym that was rented out in the evenings to square dancers was our first target. So underwear over our heads, we ran out into the gym, and you could hear a pin drop. Well, actually, you could hear the pitter-patter of our feet. We exited the back door of the gym, and we howled, laughing. Put our underwear back on, went around to the back of the school, and the doors were locked because you could only exit after 5 o'clock. We went around to the side door, locked. So we went back to the gym. The gym was propped open, I think, to let a little air in after the events earlier. But we went through, and apparently someone recognized us because the next day, the principal called us down to the office. And he had a good sense of humor. He said he wouldn't call our parents, but we were banned from using the change rooms for the rest of the season. But luckily enough, my parents put a pool in the backyard. And after track, we swam there every night. And I just want to finish by telling you that Sterling Gray was found, he did a few more documentaries, never as successful, and he was found in the Hudson River. He drowned, obviously not one of his perfect moments. Oh, that's sad. And my friend, Michael, who was the usher, became the manager of a theater and then moved on to be executive vice manager, executive vice president, thank you, of movie distribution for the biggest film company in North America. And me, I renovate showers. Thank you for listening.
Do you remember around 6.5 minutes ago I said, I have no idea what the hell this guy is going to say? One more time for Frank, please. Out of me, by the way, you get so many extra points for bringing up Spalding Gray. Because the reason I wanted to be a storyteller, I am a storyteller, three people in particular, Spalding Gray, because I also saw Swimming to Cambodia at a relatively early age and thought, this guy goes from very funny to really dark to really introspective to kind of perverted and back and forth. I feel like that every day. I want to do that. And Sandra Shamus, who's a comedian who's been doing monologues for years, I saw her a few times live and ended up at an evening with her. I was performing in the same place and just kind of stared at her and said, if I do anything good, it's because I watched you. And Hal Holbrook, the American actor, he's in All the President's Men. You've seen him 1,000 times. He played Mark Twain by himself. He did a solo show of Mark Twain for decades and could ride the audience perfectly. He could be old, he could be young, he could be characters across the board. So, good points. Anybody out here? Dig up Spalding Gray, dig up Swimming to Cambodia, Monster in a Box, Grey's Anatomy, a bunch of them. And I want to apologize profusely because I also messed up the order. So I brought you up early, so if it messed you up, I apologize. I apologize mostly to George because he should have gone next. He's going to go now. George is wonderful. George's stuff is heartfelt and it is articulate in ways that I cannot imagine. He's had a really interesting life, also in ways I can't imagine, but I respect the hell out of it. Here he is, George Derbecker. I dropped the mic, so it means we're done.
Yes, it was just a cigar what I gave you, man. It wasn't even weed in it. And it's good to be a racist. I'm not in a Zeke Heil kind of fashion racist. I mean, it's good to have been racist and stop being racist than somebody who's never been racist. And imagine if I stopped my performance when I said, it's good to be racist, and I fuck off, and you're sitting here for 30 minutes later and somebody else is talking, you're like, why did he just leave? Like, why didn't he explain himself? This stemmed from a conversation I had earlier with Mike and Joey and Terry, my friends. We were talking about where I grew up. I grew up in Lebanon, where you are given so many reasons to hate other people. Even if they're Christian like you, you're going to hate them because they're a different kind of Christian, right? Like they pray that way, you pray that way, you should be, you know? And if you get past that, then you're like, oh, you know what? We're all Christians. Doesn't matter. Oh, now hate that guy. He's Muslim. You know, and then when you go, oh, you know what? I don't care. We're all from the same kind of town. We grew up together. Yeah, but look at the other people in the other town. Like, so it's always trying to make it bigger and more fucked up for you. And having grew up with that, I also grew up with the ingrained will in me to reject that scenario, no matter how many times it gets scaled up. So, and we were talking about how the fact that I've lived my 37 years in Lebanon and the Middle East, but it felt like I've been always put on pause. Like I've always rejected where I was, and I had to put 10 times as effort to upkeep my friendships. I mean, Ayman is an old friend of mine. We've been friends for 14 years, something like that. And in Kuwait, I saw him rarely because that's the kind of life you have in the Middle East. So, you know, you grow up ingrained with that, and every time I rejected this, like, no, I'll only hate them if they're not good to me. I don't give a fuck what you do on your own time. I don't care if you suck a dick or lick on a pussy. I'm sorry. I'm saying it as it is. I don't care. It does not pertain to me. It doesn't concern me. It doesn't even affect what the fuck I'm doing with my day. Like, it's not, oh, I better make a left to my house. Oh, wait, that guy's sucking dick now. Oh, I should make a right. It doesn't fucking affect me. So why, yeah, why should I think about it? Why should it occupy any real estate inside my brain? So rejecting the system constantly had led me to be positively magnetized to the point where I landed in this country. It felt like home. It's like every part of me got attracted to its counterpart very organically, without any effort. Like everything kind of fell in place. I felt like an octopus with 8 armrests in a car, if that makes sense. I've always felt like I'm, taking somebody else's arm space. Now it feels like, really, I'm an octopus in a car and with 8 armrests. And it's very comfortable to be here. And so that's why I say, having been taught racism, having been taught, Tochi is laughing. I used to hate black people, bro. Because that's the truth, and I'll own it, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. It's because of those instances in my life that I'm willing to stand. I'll laugh at a joke. A joke is a joke. I still laugh at it. The racier the joke, the funnier it is to me, by the way, flat out. But the moment you start harming somebody physically, I'm going to lay down my life and fucking murder you before you even try to hurt that person. That's who I'm racist against. It's people who are fucked up. But the root of racism is not always bad. Racism can take shapes, can take forms, and it could lead you sometimes to think you're being right in what you're asking for, but in reality, you're trampling on somebody else's right. If you're gonna hate on somebody, or tell them they deserve to die, or just try and diminish them or who they are, or try to cause them harm, just off of the fact that they said a joke about something you give a fuck about, go fuck yourself. Sincerely. Like, if having an opinion, I said this before, having an opinion at its core is something very offensive. Because facts are facts. If I tell you, if I drop an apple, it's gonna fall down, you can't be upset at it. It's a fact, it's fucking science. You can't be upset at it. And even if you are, it doesn't change the fact. But opinions inherently are offensive because you're employing emotion to form them. So, having said that, if you get offended, get fucked. Sincerely, I mean it. But never think that because you think you have the freedom is that you can trample on somebody else's freedom and tell them, you can't say that or you can't do that. Guess what, motherfucker? They'll do it. And I'm gonna help them do it. Thank you, guys. Let's bring back Mike.
That deserves more applause, everybody. I could not do a defense of tolerance and an attack of racism with that much profanity and make it sound good. Unlike the gentleman to my deliberate right. That's wonderful. And one of the reasons I said this guy's had a life I can't imagine, if you have come from that kind of a background where everybody is at each other's throats, and you somehow managed to get through the other side, I really admire it and I respect it, and I cannot imagine how you get from point A to point B. To meet someone who's actually done it is wonderful. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love everything that floats through this room because people bring up stuff from angles you can't possibly expect. I have somebody else right now, and I'm going to lower the microphone a bit at her request. Ladies and gentlemen, Amy.
Can you hear me? I think you can. Okay. All right. Usually I come and I read stories, but today I'm going to read some poetry. just two, so I think we'll be okay with that light today. Okay, first poem I wrote when I was taking a trip to Arizona. So if anything seems familiar, that's why, if you've been there or looked at any beautiful pictures. It's called We Can Be Anything. We can eat tacos and pico de gallo at El Canto. The line winds round. Hungry people stand in dusty pebbles, wait for free corn chips, sweet prickly pear margaritas, carne asada. The fanning flamenco dancer makes it all seem a brief moment. But the night screams honey. The almost moon looks down at saluting cactuses, tumbleweed, gnarled cottonwoods. Stars open the blackness and cool desert air. In a flash, we can be in a red Chevelle on Carefree Highway, past the red rocks of Sedona, drive Route 66, hair blowing across mesas and vistas. At the Crown Railroad Restaurant, electric train overhead, fries drip, wonder onto a formica table, cracked vinyl booth, a waitress that wishes she was anywhere else. But an Arizona sunset can erase fate, turn destiny to choice. We can stay at the Econo Lodge, purple carpet, textured wallpaper, ancient vending machines. A magic mirror filled with nights of secrets hangs in just the right place. We can make memories, rub time into the wounds of this earth. Close your eyes, believe we can be anything. The next one is called Nebraska on My Mind. It's actually kind of a bit of a story poem, a little bit of both. My grandmother and I took a trip to Lake Okoboji, where she went a lot as a child. It was sort of like I don't even know, like a Collingwood type of place where there was all kinds of rides and lakes and things to do, and it was sort of like the teenager getaway. And she wanted to take me there before she died. Nebraska on My Mind, it's called. On the drive to Okoboji, flat with corn, cows with heads low, she looked at me and said, "Don't you just love farmland?" And then, right then, I did. The pale of the wheat, the big, big sky, the sun glaring down, how it felt like it could never end. She held my hand. Okoboji was a magical place when I was young. Tell me a story about then. My grandmother talked and talked, from Omaha to Okoboji. Her voice up and down like a seesaw, the farm, the tire swing, electricity selling, popcorn on the street, the war, the Dear Jane letter, to be a woman, to make a living, the sting in her face after he beat her, the shame, the triumph, getting old, feeling not ready, the never feeling ready. Fields and farms blended in the background, just like good scenery should, and I thought about how much I could love a single human. How, when you really listen, you can feel each tiny bump in the road. How beautiful flowers are even when no one is looking. How you can miss someone even when they're still there.
One more time, please. That was beautiful. I respect anyone who can come up and do that kind of free verse poetry. I know write poetry. I tried to for years and realized I couldn't do it. So anything that's between those two lines of, is this a narrative, is this a poem, is this free association, I think it's incredible that someone can do that. And I'm not articulate enough as a poet to say that any better than, oh wow, that was wonderful. Please don't doubt, it's not articulate, please don't doubt the sincerity, and thank you for doing it here. I gotta get a smaller book for this. Niall is here, and did I pronounce it properly? Then come on up. Very cool night.
All right, so let's raise this up a little bit. This is my first time here. And I have a true story to tell that did not happen to me, but happened to a friend of mine. And I've told it over and over again over the years. And partway through that transition, the story became about me. I inserted myself just because it was such a great story. That's the version I'm going to tell you. So this is a true story, but none of it happened to me. But it did happen. So I was living in Wakefield a number of years ago, and Wakefield, if you don't know, it is a small town outside of Ottawa, about 30 minutes. It's a beautiful place just over the border of Quebec. Strange little town, English enclave. Maybe best known because there's a bar on the other side of the river that I was living on. I had a chateau on the Gatineau River. And on the other side of this mighty river was a little bar called the Le Mouton Noir, or the Black Sheep. It was made famous by a CBC series. They would tape all these musicians that would come out in the middle of nowhere, like really big people, and play in this small bar, and they taped it and played it on CBC. And to get across the river, at night I would come home, and I would be able to take this little paddle boat I had, the ones with the legs, and I'd be able to aim upstream and paddle like crazy, and the force would take me down, and I'd arrive right at the Mouton Noir. But coming home at night would be much more difficult because I was a little bit drunk by then. And I was taking this weird angle, and I'd shoot up the river, but I'd always end up down the stream. And then right on the riverbank, I would have to pull this paddle boat all the way back up to the house. The paddle board will make no other appearance in the story, but I just wanted, it's just part of the love that I had for this town. The only thing that I hated was when I got back to my house, there were squirrels in the roof. Lots of squirrels. Squirrels dancing, squirrels partying. There were squirrels in the roof. And I would come home at night, whether it was at the Mouton Noir or if I was just coming home, I couldn't sleep because of the noise of the squirrels. In the local paper, I saw an ad on the back page. And it was from, my name is Marcel, I take care of your squirrel problems. There was a phone number and an address. And the address was about a mile from where I lived that I passed when I was coming home. So I stopped there the next night, knocked on the door, and this little Quebecois Frenchman came out. Round body, round head, stubby arms and legs. And he had this big curly mustache, and he's always pulling at one side, so his voice kind of slipped at the end because he would tug at his mouth. It was tough to understand what he was saying. But I said, I have a squirrel problem. And he goes, is it a big problem? And I said, I think it is. And he goes, okay, well, I can be there 8 o'clock tomorrow morning before you leave. I will get the key then. I said, okay, fine. So I went home, I slept that night, half slept. I listened to these squirrels in the roof. They were driving me crazy, and I knew that this was going to be the last night. I prayed and I hoped. The next night, I came out at 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was 2 chairs in the driveway. One had an umbrella above it for shade, and sitting there was Marcel's wife, or who I assumed was his wife. In between them was a big cooler filled with ice and beer, and Marcel was in the other chair. There was a 22 across his lap. I gave my keys, and I left for the day. And I'm gone for the day, and I came back later that night, and Marcel and his wife was gone. I went into the house, silence. That night, I had the greatest sleep of my life. There was no squirrel noise anywhere. The next day was a Saturday. I went down the road again to settle up with Marcel, and I knocked on his door. This big Frenchman came out, and I said, Marcel, I don't know what you did, but those squirrels are gone. It was amazing. Thank you. How much do I owe you? Marcel stood back, pulled at his mustache, thought about it. No charge. Thank you very much.
Give it up one more time. That is the first squirrel slaughter story that's happened here, as far as I know, and it appears to be done in a humane fashion. That is so cool and effortless. Come back anytime. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. The next person I have performed with, and she also leads her own event here and at another place in Hamilton as well. She is good, and she's the type of good that makes it look effortless, which is the type you really have to work at, which is delightfully ironic. And she also, I made a a poster for this show and made a short video. She caught the music that I used on Instagram, and no one else did. So she definitely gets 2 extra points. I just forgot. Oh, Sakamoto. Ushi Sakamoto from the soundtrack of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, which, in addition to Swimming to Cambodia, you should all go out and rent Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. It's a great film. Has nothing to do with what she's about to say. Ladies and gentlemen, Jen.
Yeah, that movie, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, was the first co-production British and Japanese after the war, and featured David Bowie in a starring role as a man who memorably says at one point, "I wish I could sing." Right through the moon. Yeah. No, I loved that you referenced that. Speaking of those days was when I actually watched really good films. I think I watch mostly bad films now. I watch television that's fun and not that's particularly insightful or good for me. And I read stories that are fun that are not particularly good for me. But there was a time when I used to listen to a lot of things that were very highbrow. I think I got lower brow the longer I've been alive. My brows have lowered and continue to lower. I'm going to be listening to nothing but Benny Hill repeats by the time I get to my 90s. What I wanted to talk about, though, was the fact that I've done a really bad job of friendship over the years. I've had really bossy friends. I seem to have almost a genius for, this is bothering me because it's there we go. I have a genius for finding friendships with people that are going to push me around and not let me have any input into what we do or what we're going to talk about. I've had so many friendships where I'm talking on the phone, except that I'm not really talking, and my entire conversation with the person is them and me saying, "Yep. Oh. Wow." But and it started early. It started really, really early. And I was going to try to tell 2 quick stories about bossy friends I've had. And they're both kind of tragic, but I hope that they'll be interesting as well. The first one was Somia. Somia had an older sister, and I think that she got bossed around by her older sister, and because of that, she liked to boss me around. And we always did what Somia wanted to do, and I always felt that I was just tagging along for the ride. And one day, my little 10, 11-year-old self got to the point where I was so angry all the time, and had these huge emotions in me that were way too big for my body, and there was nobody in my life I could talk to. I didn't have the kind of parents that you talk to about your friendships, about your things that are going on for you. I was part of the generation that was kind of kicked out of the house and told to come home when it got dark, I guess. So one day I finally got up the courage to go to Somia's house to break up with her. So I knocked on her door, and she came to the door, and she was in tears. And she was just beside herself, and her cat had gone missing. So instead of breaking up with her, I spent my day going door to door with her to all of the houses in the neighborhood, trying to find out if anyone had seen her cat, her precious, wonderful, much, much, much beloved cat. And again, I was just tagging along, but I was directing things for once. I was the one who was making the plan of which houses we were going to go to, and I was the one who kept her going and kept telling her that there was hope, that we were going to find him, and he was going to be okay. Finally, we did find him by the side of the road, and he was not okay. So the day that I planned to go and break up with my friend, instead I ended up comforting her, and can't really tell you what happened to the friendship after that, but I think we sort of drifted apart after that. But it made me, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the fact that I never got a chance to say the things that I wanted to say to her. But it obviously was a missed opportunity because I kept getting bossy friends. The next one was Melissa. And Melissa and I played together every day after school. Melissa's family were, I think, child psychologists, and they were always kind of hovering in doorways and watching us play and nodding sagely to each other. I don't know, I have no idea what was going on there. But again, Melissa, I think, had felt like she wasn't able to be the driving force in her own life, so she wanted to be the driving force in my life. And eventually, one summer, I just got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I was just angry all the time and felt just belittled all the time and like I had no control and no agency in my own life. So I told Melissa I couldn't be her friend anymore. And that was over the summer. We went back to school in grade 8, which is, of course, a time when you're at your absolute best emotionally and you're most mature mentally. So I was kind of happy. I mean, I didn't have any friends, but at least I didn't have the feeling that my friendship was one that was actually hurting me all the time. So a few months into school, I get called to the guidance counselor's office. And the guidance counselor sits me down, and I have no idea why I'm there, and he says, "Well, I've had a complaint about you. There's a girl who says you've been harassing her and stalking her, and that you've been bothering her, and that you won't leave her alone, and you keep calling her and wanting to play with her, and she can't do her homework because she's so distracted. Yeah, Melissa's really, really getting upset with you." And I tried to find a way to make it sound like I was a sensible person, and that this, of course, was absolutely not something that had happened, and I just needed to defend myself somehow, and found myself instead bawling my eyes out in front of the guidance counselor. And then he suggested that we bring Melissa in. So you got to picture this, like little 13-year-old me and the girl who's been tormenting me, who I finally broke away from. And now I'm in a position where I'm supposed to apologize to her for stopping her from doing her homework. So we didn't speak after that, but we were still in the same school for another 6 months, and it always just weighed on me that I couldn't fix it. I just wanted to fix it somehow. It didn't matter to me that I was the one who had wanted to walk away in the first place. It just felt like there was an unfinished piece of business there. Melissa had lupus and was a very sick little girl. And when we got to grade 9, she actually went into hospital, and it was pretty clear that it was going to be a bad outcome. And I decided to make one final effort to, I don't even know what I was thinking, to apologize, to make her feel better about what she did to me. I mean, that's definitely something I've done more times in my life than I care to imagine. So I took her a set of the Narnia books, and I put a card with them, and I went to the hospital, and there were a couple of other girls there already visiting her, and I wasn't sure if I could interrupt, so I kind of hung back. When the other girls left, I came and put the books down and tried to talk to her, and she just looked right through me. And as I left, she threw the books and the card in the garbage can. And I think I think I've been trying to learn that lesson all my life, the lesson of there's some people that you can't be with and be who you are. That no matter what happens, you're always going to find that your personality is compromised. And that's a lesson that I think I've started to learn finally in my in my old age. But it's a hard one. I really wish I had a quote to finish up with, but that's the story of a couple of my friendships. Thank you. Determined to fix this mic stand for you.
For Jen, please. Two things. Firstly, that was beautiful, and secondly, parsing that. Just the idea. I mean, I don't think anyone in this room hasn't known at least one or two people who you are close to on one level and want to strangle at some other level, or simply cannot understand. What do? You live with it until you can't. And what did you say? It's going to grade 8 where everybody is perfectly stable and it's not dramatic in any way, shape, or form. That is already kind of a nightmare. The fact that you can remember it years later and you're putting it in these terms that are, it might sound like melodrama, but it isn't. It's what was real at the time, and that was heartbreaking. Thank you for telling it here. This is a very cool night. I'm going to do the short intro for the next performer, which is the one I always do. We've known each other for over 20 years. We worked in a software company together. When I started performing in Toronto, he came to watch, and then he came to perform. And for a long time, I was really hoping we'd end up on the same stage at some point. So the fact he comes all the way from Toronto to do this is an honor, and he's a great performer. Brian Theriault.
I used to destroy my relationships like at 2 years. 2 years was the cutoff. It would just fail at 2 years. I guess, it's like a tolerance level, right? I just kind of super saturate that sponge with all of me. And then it's just too much and it starts running all over the floor. So I was ready for it. The first serious girlfriend I had, she was a great girl. I can still remember the first time I met her. I spoke with her anyways. I was a paper boy and I was making a collection run, and I came up to the door and she answered the door. She bounced down the stairs and she threw open the door and knocked me over with it. And she had rosy cheeks with freckles on it, and she hid her smile behind her hand when she smiled. We ended up dating a little bit after that. It was her idea, of course. And one dinner we had, she advanced the relationship very quickly. Well, quick enough for me anyways. So we're sitting at a dinner at her parents' house. There's 4 of us. And she says, I know what the name of our firstborn boy is going to be. And I'm like, okay. Well, what would that be? And she goes, Enos. What? Well, I just started laughing. I thought it was a joke. I mean, come on. Enos? But everybody else at the table were looking at me like, I'm like, okay. Why did you pick that name? And she said, it's my father's name. The rest of the dinner, we did not say anything. She was nice, but she had, kind of pictured the way the relationship was going to be. And I mean, it involved me changing my religion and 8 kids. And I was going to end up working at the same steel mill that her father did. I'm like, She had it all kind of picked out and didn't really ask me any questions as to how I felt about it. Well, that didn't last. But it finished at 2 years. So I thought, it's weird. Fine. Second girlfriend, a serious girlfriend. Anyways, spent a couple of months just getting drunk. Found myself in a punk bar in Toronto, and a girl at the table next to us had picked up the ashtray, that's back when they had good old glass ashtrays, and threw it at the lead singer. Just missed his head. The guy was just fast enough to miss that. And then, the rest of the concert goes on. It's not unusual for a punk concert for that to happen. Anyways, the end of the concert, the whole band rolls off the stage. There's like 6 of them. They roll off the stage. They thought that since she was right behind us, that somebody at our table had thrown it. We were far too drunk to have done anything like that, like care about what they were singing on the stage. Anyways, the lead singer, starts lipping, and he said, fight. And he said it just loud enough to wake up our friend, the big one. And he heard the word fight, comes up off the table, picks up a chair, and goes, where? And we're like, no, it's okay, man, cool down, don't worry about it. He was swinging the chair over the heads of the band. And, well, they were like, no, it's over. And they left. So that was okay. The girl apologized for, getting us in trouble. And then she hit on my friend. Okay, that's cool. He was not into it. He had just broken up with his girlfriend. Anyways, 2 weeks later, she hits on me. By that time I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? She had a great way of not letting you think. It was always now. Like, let's just do it. Like, forget about, thinking about it. Let's just do it. So we were, lots of drugs, lots of booze, lots of very dangerous public sex. And just, scary, fast, no time to think, always on the go. And she hid me from her parents. Well, it's no big surprise that would happen, but anyways, her mother was begging. And I said, well, whatever. I wouldn't mind meeting the parents. She says, oh, I'll hold you to that. So we're there, getting another dinner at the house, and I'm talking with the father. The father was an art insurance adjuster. So somebody has a piece of art, there was a fire in the house, he'd come by and say how much the art was. So he had a really good eye for beauty. And you could tell by his wife, he was very composed, very demure, very French, beautiful. Unfortunately, the daughter did not meet that kind of expectation in the father. So he said to me, well, you seem tall, you seem to be composed, You could do better. And I couldn't believe it. I wanted to pop him right in the face. I just met the guy. Oh, but you know, I've never had somebody insult my girlfriend to my face like that. Sorry, Mike, I'm going over. So, again, fast, furious, too much, too fast, ended at 2 years. I ended up going to college. And in college, I'd broken up with her just at the beginning of college. And I just tucked my head into school and just go, go, go. You know, she had spent all of my money on drugs just before we broke up. Like every penny in my bank account. She knew I was going to college, so she just soaked it all up. Yeah, so I was living off of toast and cigarettes. And the toast was the cheapest thing in the cafeteria. So my friends all noticed, and they would do things like sneak me sandwiches. Oh, I can't finish this, and just throw it over at me. And, well, after about 3 months, I look up, and one of the faces that had been throwing sandwiches at me smiled at me and let me know that we could go out. So, fine. We ended up sharing an apartment, and after the course, 2 years, I said to her, well, there you go. That's 2 years, the end of the course, perfect timing. I'm not surprised by the fact that you want to leave by this time. And I go on and on and on. Well, guess what? She didn't want to. But there was a post-secondary course where 1 more year, I would go in, she would work. She would go in, I would work. Again, once the course was over, another 2 years, I said, that's twice the doctor recommended dosage. You should be finished by now. This is a perfect time for you to, find your own legs. We didn't make any promises. There's no commitments. There's no piece of paper. You can leave any time you want to. Well, she didn't. And that was 40 years ago. Love you, boo.
That's why I'm always happy to have him back. Brian Terrio, everybody. I don't have the clicker, so somebody keep me honest, please. Can I break rules? Well, these are my rules. Yeah, these are only ostensibly my rules. Firstly, I usually don't perform with my glasses on because the glare is a bit weird. And I never carry anything. I never read off a piece of paper. And the stuff I do is, until now, completely original. But I want to go off that for a couple of reasons, because people tonight have read poetry and they've read stuff out of the ordinary, and I got to be honest, I'm jealous. And also, what I wanted to talk about tonight, I don't think I could, because people here have told stories that are better than what I would have told. I want to rethink what I did because of what I've seen this evening, and that's a compliment to the storytellers. If you're really interested afterwards, I will tell you exactly who it was. But Jake was nice enough to let me print something. And I want to be a poet. I mean, I wanted to be a poet. I could never do it. One of the best poets I ever read was a guy named James Dickey. Anybody recognize the name? James Dickey. Ever see the movie Deliverance? Yeah, okay. But you know the general theme. Guys go down a river in the middle of Georgia. They get attacked by hillbillies. Yeah. Good movie, terrifying movie. The book is very poetic. It's kind of hard to describe. And he was actually an award-winning poet. He was spectacular. He was better than W.H. Auden, Dylan Thomas, Theodore Retke. His poetry is outstanding, and it's interesting because he was a horrible, horrible human being. He was the kind of guy, he was in World War II. He never went overseas, but he would go to reunions of pilots who flew in Japan and convince them that he was there and end up playing the piano and getting free drinks. He was a horrible human being on so many different levels, but he wrote this transcendent stuff. My dad was a Baptist church elder. I was raised in the Baptist church. I always associate this poem with something that is good out of that experience. I mean, nothing terrible happened to me out of that church, but one of the ministers my father really respected got defrocked because he was sleeping with the people he was marriage counseling. Yep. Oh, everybody. There was a large... He had done this for months and months. I mean, he never quite admitted to it, but he did it for months. It was a very ecumenical approach. And when I found this out, I thought it was hysterically funny, but I also thought my father is very aware of the fact he has backed the wrong horse. And it kind of killed me. This poem reminds me of that environment, sacred and profane next to each other. One of the people who was a Sunday school teacher of mine was a very, very decent person, and then he keeled over playing tennis suddenly. And I thought of this poem. My aunt passed away a few years ago, and I read this at her funeral. And my sister said, "I have never heard anybody read James Dickey at a funeral." I said, "You've only read Deliverance. So if you let me do this, just kind of let me break the rules." It doesn't need more introduction other than this guy could paint pictures in a way that transcended his personality and took you to places you don't expect. So this is called Reading Genesis to a Blind Child. I'm hiding beside you to tell you what the world itself cannot show, that you walk with an untold sight beyond the best reach of my light. Try as you can to bear with me as I struggle to see what you see and to be born of the language I speak. Claw, feather, fur, and beak, the birds come under your hand as into the ark, from a land that a cloud out of hell must drown. But for you, my second-born son, the sheep like your mother's coat, the bear, the bird, and the goat come forth, and the cunning serpent I'm holding, my right arm bent, that you might take hold of the curve of round, warm skin that must serve for evil. And now on breathing, I take a pin for the tooth of the snake. You gravely touch it and smile, not at me, but at the world where you sit in the blaze of a book, where lion and eagle and snake represented by pillow and pin, by feathers from hats and thin gull wings and paper loosed from pages my fingers have traced, with the forms of free-flying birds, and these are the best of my words. If I were to ask you now to touch the bright lid of my eye, might I not see what you see? Would my common brain not turn to untellable vision and burn with the vast creative color of dark and the serpent hidden forever in the trembling right arm of your father? Can you take this book and bring it to life with a look, and I can tell you how I have made your world, and know no more than I have known, the beasts that smelled the rain, yet none have wailed for fear. You touch me, I am here. The hand has passed through my head, and this is the hand of the Lord, and I have called forth the world in a word, and I am shut from the thing I have made. I have loosed the grim wolf on the sheep, and yet your original deep of your innocence, they lie down together. Upon each beast is a crown of patience, immortal and bright, in which is God-pleasing delight, and your grace is forbidden. And I am remembering Eden as you sit and play with a sword of fire made of a word. And I call through the world's saving gate, each word creating your light, all things in patient tones, birds, beasts, and flowering stones. In each new word, something new. The world cannot yet show all the earthly things I have led upon your touch, and I've been fed thus upon the darkness that bore them, by which they most mightily shine, and shall never know vision from sight, nor light from the source of all light. The sun is made to be hidden, and the meeting and prospect of Eden to go blind as a stone until touched, and the ship in a greenwood beach to not rise through those trees on a smoke of rain until that flood break, and the sun go out in a cloud, and the voice, we make it aloud, striving most gently to bring a fit word to everything, and to come onto the thing that it is steaking within its speaking. Speaking. Thank you. Cheers. All those rules broken in 4.5 minutes, I hope. I'm just going to grab the book, see who's next. I have the memory of a goldfish. Mea culpa. This guy's another person who's wonderful. I have seen him several times. He goes angles and places I never expect. Toshi.
Hi. I have something in common with George. I also used to hate Arabs. I also hated white people and Asians and blacks.
You hate everyone equally.
I'm an equal opportunity hater. Yeah. And growing up, the reason I really hated people was because I kind of felt like most people were too selfish for my liking. But then, I'm not as old as a lot of people in this room, but I think I'm finally old enough to realize that every single human being is selfish. Like, even the most selfless ones amongst us are selfish. Like, every single act that we perform in life comes from a selfish place. It always comes from a place of self-preservation, which means that we could never, like, even if you died for someone, you only died for them because you couldn't live without them. So basically, it always finds its way back to us as people. So it's really hard to do, but I'm trying to find that perfect balance. I've been trying to find that perfect balance lately where, like, you don't get to judge people. You judge the situations, and then you decide whether that situation would favor you or not, their selfishness. And what led me to this thought was when I studied project management, and I learned about risk, that there are positive and negative risk. The positive risk being those uncertainties that, if they came to happen, would help your project and make them more successful. And the negative ones, of course, being the ones that would derail the project. And there's the same with selfishness. There is the positive and the negative selfishness. The positive ones being the ones that, well, if I don't leave this stage at the end of my lights, I risk being hated by most of you, so I have to leave. Yeah, so that kind of, I'm selfless doing that, or I'm like sticking to the rules doing that, but I'm only doing it because at the end of the night, I want to be able to sleep without thinking of 20 people or 30 people who hate me right now. But then there is also the negative aspect of it, which is that I could decide to stay on because I know that I'm with Canadians and you guys are too nice to tell me to fuck off. Yes, this happened last night as well when, like, a comedian came on stage and he was negatively selfish, I would say, and at the end of the night, people kept bombarding him. And deep down, I was like, I love this guy. I love the fact that he could, like, be an asshole and feel good about it because yeah, that's what, to me, everyone should aspire to be that. Like, every now and then, just do something that people wouldn't want you to do and tell them to fuck off. Yeah, just because you can. Yeah, I was watching a clip. Of course, we watch over 100 clips daily these days, so I don't even know about it. I know it was from Obama, and he was talking about how capitalism is the best and it's proven by the fact that the states that practice capitalism are the most successful at the moment. But that clip left out a very important context. It left out all the bombs, you know, the missiles, the nuclear weapons that were developed by these states that practice capitalism, and the wars that had to be fought for capitalism to be the superior argument. Yeah. So it's all from a place of self-preservation is all I came out here to say, that the fact that George would come out to fight for someone who is being bullied is because it would make him sleep better at night. The fact that as I'm seeing the yellow light, I'm trying to figure out how to end this set and get the fuck out of this stage. It's because I don't want you guys to hate me at the end of the night. And, okay, I think I figured out how to end it. Thank you. Yeah. On Monday morning, 2 kids will go to school, 2 different kids, and I assume that both of them came from really good families. One of them will go home at the end of the day with his lunchbox still filled up with food, and his parents will be wondering why he doesn't eat. The other would go home with his lunchbox fully eaten, and his parents will be happy that he eats. But then a context is also missing from this, which is that the kid with a filled-up lunchbox actually collected all the food from the one who didn't eat his food. And he only did it because he would sleep well at night knowing that he bullied someone else. And the other kid with an empty lunchbox also felt good leaving this kid to take all his food because that's the only way he would be able to sleep at night without being beaten. But both times, it came from a place of self-preservation. Thank you so much, guys.
Merci. That was very cool. Man, he's a wordsmith, isn't he? That was really cool. 4 words. Again, more emotional in ways that I can't be on stage. I always have to plot things out. I always love everything, the way this gentleman performs, because it comes directly out of the heart. Stuff gets filtered in my brain and goes corrupt 9 times out of 10. So anyone who can do something else, I greatly appreciate it. The next person coming up is Shelley, who I've only known for a couple of months, but we have ties in the same kind of obscure area of northeast Ontario. So I feel like I've known her, because if she knows tiny places that no one else in the universe knows other than me, we obviously must have known each other forever. Here she is, Shelley.
Most of you know me as a bit of an urbanist. I walk, I ride my bike, I take transit, and I use Go. I love living here in Corktown because we have a perfect mix of low, medium, and high density. We have a walking modality of 22%, and that's actually true. That's pretty impressive for North America. That's really rare for most communities. But lean in closer. I secretly love cars. I love to drive them. I love the power as they pull out on the open road. How did my secret love of cars start? Well, I blame my dad. A fan of car shows, he found a willing accomplice in me, so off we went, touring slant sixes and oversaturated gasoline carburetors. And his knowledge of cars transferred to me when I became an adult. One time I showed up at his house with a 1981 Chrysler Fifth Avenue. You know, the kind with Corinthian leather. Real Corinthian leather. Well, he sighed and showed up the next day at my house with a can of carburetor cleaner. Because apparently Corinthian leather does not help a 318 engine start. Whether it's going to rain, think about raining, maybe rain, sometimes rain, might rain next week. Generally, they don't like to start. So it was a can of carburetor cleaner every single month that we owned the Fifth Avenue until it died. And then we started a new round of what I called the UJAS cars. A Buick, a blue Chev Impala station wagon. It was fun to do tricks with that car. You roll around in the parking lot in the snow. Then we had a Buick Roadmaster station wagon with the L4 Corvette engine. Even better, even better. And it could fly. I mean, the police would see me going down the road and they're like, no, that's a station wagon. Old people drive that. It can't possibly be going 140 kilometers an hour. And it was, but it was like sitting on your couch, but you're going fast. And it was great for drive-ins and sheets of plywood. But then I downsized. I had to because the door of the Roadmaster fell clear off. I was just done. So then it was a peppy Chev Aveo, 5-speed. And I could race the Hondas at the streetlights. But then one sad day, I was driving to work, and the triple pack of deer came along. There's a rule in the country that if there's 3 deer, if you see 1 deer, there's 2 more. There's always 3. So I saw the first 2, and then the third one showed up. Apparently, Aveos are not good deer hunting vehicles, literally and figuratively. What was next? A Jetta diesel 5-speed. Now that I could beat the Hondas in. Torque was crazy. But then I decided it was time to end my car life and to only rent when necessary. And that's been my mode since. For 10 years, I haven't had a car. Except the car stories keep coming. And I will relay the story of my last best car adventure. In 2021, I was running a personal assistant business. One of my clients requested I rent a car to drive him to Pearson for a trip to Malaysia. I think it was an APEC meeting. I don't know. He was always meeting very fancy people. So I called my crew, expecting to get a boring rental. I show up, and it's an Audi 4. Well, they're all apologetic. Oh, so we're so sorry, Shelley. We tried to get you like something small, like a Chev Malibu, but this is all we could give you. I'm like, oh, I love these kind of mistakes. I always ask for a plain car. I always ask for good fuel mileage, but I was not going to pass up an Audi 4 on a drive to Pearson Airport. So I was like, oh, I'll take it. I'm broken up about it, but I'll take it. I'll take it. My client was suitably impressed with the Audi 4 until he found out how much one new cost. This is a guy that had 2 '67 Jags in his garage. One was a hard top, one was a soft top, and those suckers flew. But he thought that the Audi was too much money. But that was just him. After he safely made it to his plane, I had to go pick up one of my sons. So back down the 400s here as we go. I called my one son and I said, hey, I'm going to pick up your brother. I'm like, I am driving an Audi 4. Well, of course, he's like his mother. He's a car freak too. He's like, oh, take a picture of Isaac's face when you get there. So I did. I pulled into the driveway and took a picture of his face and sent it to his brother. And his brother promptly started to laugh. And then Isaac came up to the car and he said, did you steal this? No, Isaac, I did not steal it. They literally rented it to me. Well, he was just thrilled as I was to drive in this car. So I have to say that it was the best 24 hours ever of me renting a car. I could barely sleep knowing it was sitting alone in the parking lot. I felt like I should go out and sleep with it. But it was fine. It was fine out there. Sadly, I returned it, telling the staff that if they ever wanted to make a mistake like that again, to feel free to do so. And it's never happened again. They've given me Dodge Chargers, and I was sadly disappointed, and a BMW with a window in the roof that was the size of my living room window. And it still was not the same as that 24 hours with an Audi. But it was a beautiful ride. Thank you.
Shelley, everybody. Shelley. You have no idea how envious I am of you right now. Firstly, as a storyteller, and secondly, oh, the cars, my God, the cars. That is unspeakably cool. I also drove an Audi around, belonged to a girlfriend. It's a very weird, long story. I'll do it another time. We are at the last person. All right. It's so glad we had this time together. If you're old enough, you'll know that song. And just because, again, the light, I can't see very well. Joey is here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's more than just Joey is here. Joey is here.
I am not a storyteller. I'm a comic. You can see me here most Thursdays hunting for the perfect dick joke. But I like doing things that I'm uncomfortable with, that I've never done before, so I figured I'd give this a shot. Unfortunately, I'm a Canadian white male. Stories are pretty lame, especially when these guys from around the world are telling such amazing stories. George and Eamon and Tochi over there, but I figured I'd give it a shot. I don't have very many interests aside from comedy. I have one. It's called technological dystopia. It's the philosophy that basically technology is going to destroy us all. More specifically, once the sex bots arrive in earnest, we will no longer copulate with each other. No kids. Extinction of the human race. It's very sad. So anytime I hear a story about a computer doing something weird, I kind of put that in my head. So this is that story. It's going to be very short. It takes place in a different kind of world. An underground, dark, sexy world of chess. That's right. My favorite chess player of all time is a man named Magnus Carlsen. He is currently the #1 ranked player in the world, probably the best chess player of all time. That's not why I like him. I love Magnus Carlsen because Magnus Carlsen is an asshole. He's an asshole. I've seen him play other chess masters, other grandmaster chess players, and like on the second move, he'll just give away his queen. Now, if you know nothing about chess, understand that that's almost like a professional boxer defending his title by tying his hand behind his back and still kicking the crap out of his opponent. Like, it's awesome. But this story isn't really about Magnus, per se. There's another character involved. His name is Stockfish. Stockfish is the most advanced artificial intelligent chess machine ever invented. I use it to analyze my chess matches. And what it'll do is each move, it'll tell you whether that's a good move or a bad move. Give you a red check mark or a green check mark. And it's a really good tool to improve your game. Here's the weird thing. The #1 chess AI in the entire world, the entire history of humanity, Stockfish, thinks that the #1 chess player of all time, Magnus Carlsen, is a fucking idiot. Like, you watch his games and it's just red check, oh, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. And he eventually wins the game. And I can't get this out of my head. And this might be the positive part of the story. Because I think the whole sex bot thing, I think it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable. And I think actually you could even take it further, that once all the humans are dead, that other aliens come to our planet, like it's the red light planet. And then eventually they take the sex box back to their hometown, and then their entire society is wiped out. So it extinguishes life from all over the universe. But that's crazy talk, right? We're just talking about Earth here. And I feel that somehow the greatest AI ever invented, thinking that the greatest chess player ever lived is an idiot, is actually a positive force for humanity. That's a good story, right? I think we might actually pull through this. But probably not. Have you seen those Japanese sex bots? Irresistible. Anyways, thank you, Mike, for allowing me to ramble. Thank you, CFTA, for allowing me.
Joey. I just want to say, I think it's tasteless. You're talking about Japanese sex bots, but if you have some, links or photos or anything, so I can know exactly how tasteless it is. We have reached the end of the evening. Give yourself a hand, please, first and foremost. Before everybody disappears into the aether, a couple of things. If you perform tonight and you would like a very nicely, professionally shot video of your performance, please talk to George over there. He can give you details. This place is going to be open for a bit. If anybody wants a piece of the baklava that was previously mentioned, it is frighteningly good. It's also over there. Everybody who's come out here tonight, as always, thank you for encouraging my behavior, an expression I keep trying not to use, but it suits it perfectly. Thank you again for Jake, George, letting me in through this. Everybody who's performed, come back again. You're all more than welcome. Everybody who's watching the streaming, thank you for your time. And one incredibly personal note, if one of the people I was thinking of when I read that James Dickey poem, specifically Ray Binkley, Johannes Derbecker, wherever you are, I hope you liked it. Thanks. Good night, everybody.